Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Augustic and welcome to your third C tutorial. So if you guys remember last time, what we talked about was the program boilerplate, and we also discussed some of the bare minimum functions that code blocks gives us so that we can execute our code and actually make it work, so to speak. So today what we're going to do is go a little more in depth with the program, and I'm going to tell you guys about identifiers, data types, and variables. And if you don't get anything else out of this tutorial, just know that we combine identifiers and data types in order to create variables, and that's basically what I'm going to be walking you guys through. So to start off, let me ask you guys, I guess, what is an identifier? So if you think back to a time in your algebra class in middle school or whatever, your teacher was like, okay guys, x is equal to 5. And so now what is x? X is our identifier. We're using it to represent the number 5 within an equation, right? So, and there's rules surrounding our identifiers, and I'm gonna show you guys that. So let me delete this really quickly. So rule 1 is, and this is the biggest one, identifiers can only be alphanumeric. What does that mean? That means that identifiers can only be comprised of letters A through Z, capital case or lowercase, it doesn't matter, and numbers 0 through 9. So ignore this first word, this int, that stands for integer, and I'll get into that later. But to the right of this is going to be my identifier. So identifier, that is comprised of only letters, so that is a valid identifier. Alphanumeric, so it could be, I could change this to a capital M identifier. That is fine too, and then I can throw numbers on here, and that's fine. And we can test to see if it's fine by clicking the build button, and if you notice, we get green, we get no errors. Therefore, that means we have made no errors. So that's rule 1. Rule 2, which is less of a rule but more of an add-on, is that you can also use underscores. So if I just throw an underscore in here anywhere, I still have a valid variable or a valid identifier. See, so I click run, or I click build, and I get no errors. So that's still valid. So that brings us to rule 3. Rule 3 is that it cannot start with a number. So let's change this to something illegal. So let's change this to x. X is a fine variable, right? But we can't change this to 2, 3x. You see it changed colors, and we click the build, and we get a red thing here, and we get an error. And so basically the error is that, like I said, you can't start it with a number, but it can, however, start with an underscore. Underscore x is fine. Underscore 2, 3x is fine as well. So those are the 3 rules surrounding identifiers. So this now brings me to the next topic, which is data types. So you remember how I said to ignore that int? Well, that int stands for integer, right? That's one data type, and an integer, if you remember, is a whole number. So it's 1, 2, 3 to a million, right? All those numbers, 25, negative 32, even negative numbers are integers. So that's legal. We also have floats, no s, float y. So again, float is my data type, y is my identifier. And so a float is any number, any decimal point number, pretty much, to a certain precision. So 5.4321 is a float because it's a decimal. If we try to throw on a decimal to this 32 here, we'll either get an error or it'll just knock it off. And so when we use x later on, it's just going to say negative 32. So those are the difference between integers and floats. And we also have doubles. And a double is a float with more precision. So if our y is 5.432, then we can say z is 5.4321117.8, whatever. We can go on for a longer amount of time or a longer amount of digits after the decimal point. So it's just a more precise decimal. And then we have char for character. And a character is not a it's not a digit, it's literally one character, right? So I now have a variable called my initial, and it stores the letter A within it. And this doesn't have to be literally a character. It can be, you know, it can pretty much be anything. I can make it the and symbol. I can make the $sign, anything. It's just a character. So I'll leave it like that. And so these are our 4 basic data types, right? We have integers, floats, doubles, and characters. And it is very important how you type these guys. These are all lowercase keywords. And they're keywords in the sense that you can't use them for anything else. So you, in other words, I can't have an int called int because that's lowercase int is a keyword. Now, if I were to change this to all uppercases, or if I were to change just one of them to an uppercase, then that's an identifier because it's not lowercase. So these are special keywords. So lowercase float, double, character, all those are special keywords. Also notice when you store a character within an actual character identifier, you have to use single quotes. Double quotes will get you an error. And so now you see that we have data types and identifier side by side. And now X is no longer just an identifier, it's an actual variable. So that's pretty much all I want to show you guys this tutorial. So stay tuned and check out the next one. Thanks.